Hey everyone, today I wanted to share with you the exhaust system that we just finished on this truck. We've got a lot of work still ahead of us. As you can see, the front end is off of this thing, and I'm cleaning up what's left so that we can put a coat of Rust-Oleum on it, and then that way when we start to go back with the new parts, it'll all look uniform. So stay tuned for those videos. I've got a couple at least that will cover the front end lowering, one about the parts specifically, and then one that will include the assembly. So again, watch out for those, and hopefully you'll get to watch those soon. All right, so the exhaust. What did we do? What are we focusing on? So today, this exhaust, we want to emphasize that you can do it completely sourcing the parts through Amazon, which is pretty cool. Gone are the days you just have to, take this stuff to the muffler shop, if you will. If you're, do-it-yourself minded, you can easily put this together with or without a MIG welder. We had a welder at our disposal, so we welded all these parts. But you do not have to have that. And I'll show you the clamps that I would use and whatnot that would create a leak-free system. It's going to cost a little bit more simply because the clamps, cost money, but at any rate, that is an option. All in, I believe this cost about 300 bucks, 300 to 330. There's a piece I'm not sure exactly what part it is. There's two Hedman part numbers. It's one number off. They look the same. I'm sure there's some differences, but here right before I made this video, I couldn't figure out which one it was. So I'll give you both. There's about a $30 difference in the price. So if you're trying to put together a system similar to this and want to go the same route that we did, you can figure out on your own which one of those works best for you. So stay tuned. We're going to get into the details, and I'll show you all the pieces and parts that we did to make the system complete. All right, so let's go start to finish with this thing. We've got run-of-the-mill headers here. As you can see, they are off of something that's been rolled hard and put up wet over the years. But 3-inch collector coming out from the exit point, and this next piece here is that it's either an S pipe or an X pipe, depending on which one we ordered. Again, I'll give you the part numbers for both. But the nice thing about it is, one, it has a flange on the end of the tubing that mates up to the header. And of course we're at 3 inches end to end. I believe you can get this piece where it's reduced down at this end going out toward the rest of the exhaust. You can get it reduced down to 2 and something, either 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. So depending on which route you want to go, you could go and do that as well if you didn't want to do the full 3 inch all the way end to end like we did. But you can see now I'm laying on my side here on the floor, so it's kind of hard to tell. This thing is very nicely tucked up underneath the frame, which is what you want. The last thing you need is the exhaust being the lowest point under the truck, because now you've got the potential to drag and scrape and whatever else that you don't want. So with that bend in there, you can tuck it up underneath the frame just where it needs to be, and then you've got a great starting point there to go all the rest of the way back and be up inside the frame rails, which again is what you want. What we've got here is a 3 inch center in, 3 inch center out universal muffler. This thing sounds pretty good. It's pretty short. I had my concerns about whether it was actually going to do any kind of muffling, but it did turn out to be pretty good. So these mufflers are oversized so that you can slide a 3 inch OD pipe inside of it, and then that way if you clamp it, you've got some overlap there to bite onto. We of course welded this. I think I still slid this pipe into here before we welded it. Now what you'll see on this end is for whatever reason I opted to leave this flange in the next pipe. So what you see here is both of these are oversized. You can see it stops about right here. Both of these are oversized, and I just butted one up to the other and welded it, which is not near the deal it would be if you tried to clamp it. Clamping two pipes that are butted up against each other, while they sell clamps they claim will work for that, I would not trust those. So you always want one to slide into the other. So in this case, what I could have done, since I needed these extension pipes typically have one end that is oversized, so you can slide the next piece up in it, and then the other side is not. I needed the other side to be the not because of what we did next. So what I could have easily done is I could have just cut off whatever this is, 2 or 3 inches here, and then slid that up in the muffler, and that would have given me something to start with inside the muffler, which would have made a little bit more rigid connection. Again, not quite as required with the welder, but I think, in hindsight, it would have been a nice thing to do. You're only going to sacrifice whatever length this is plus, probably, I don't know, let's call that 2.5 inches, and then you're going to go up in this thing at least another 1/2 inch or more. So 3 to 4 inches is basically all you would sacrifice off the length, and I think all in all it would be worth it. And again, it would be absolutely required if you're going to clamp it, in my opinion. So this piece here is 4 feet, and then what we did at the end is just put some turn downs on it. Now those turn downs, again, they needed the end to be 3 inches OD, so I couldn't have turned this pipe around and put that turn down over that oversize. That we would have had an issue with that. So that's the way we wound up finishing it off. That's about, I don't know, 1 foot, 2 foot before the rear end, which in our case has turned out pretty good. Let me show you these hangers. So the hangers here are as you can see, they're bent at the top. Now what they're made to do is more be straight up and down, and then typically you'd have something hanging like, you can see, I can put my finger here, right there. That's the piece of a hanger that's left from the original equipment. There would have typically been something rubber in that loop, and if it was still intact, you could have probably made that hanger go straight up and down, and then just pushed that thing into the rubber piece, and you're off to the races. We only had that hanger on one side, and of course the rubber stuff is gone. So what we opted to do is just rigid mount these things, which I think they turned out pretty good. They're not battle tested, so I can't tell you if it's going to hold up, but the thing don't move, so that's a good start. And the only thing I did was we looked for similar to these, where the frame has typically got holes in it that's not used for whatever reason, and we just found one at about the halfway point of the exhaust, and we just cocked these over and stuck it through the frame. Now there isn't a hole at the end of that, so this is the one thing that I did before we put them in, is I just took a punch and went up just a little bit on the pin and punched it so that I could drill a hole, and we put a rubber washer and then a steel washer on it, and then there's a cotter pin in there. So that's going to keep it from pushing out, and hopefully keep the exhaust stable for years to come. I hope you enjoyed the video. As I was putting this thing together and thinking about how much money we spent on it versus what it would have cost if we took it to a muffler shop, I wanted to kind of position it as, hey, you're going to save money, Amazon source, do it yourself, versus taking it to a Midas or whoever puts exhaust on these days and have them do it. I'm sure you probably still do. To what degree, I have no idea. And the reason why I don't is I've never had exhaust put on a car in my adult life. I've had one exhaust done professionally, and that was when I was a teenager. And I'll share a story that I've never told before, as a funny, if you will, but it documents my one time that I've purchased an exhaust from a professional setup. So, real quick, I was 15 years old. My dad buys me a 66 Chevy 2 Super Sport. I love that car. I wish I still had it. Had a 350 in it, a little tired. And before I turned 16, I had the opportunity, we pulled the motor out of it, even though it was running, and just went through the entire thing. So there was a family friend, I didn't know anything at the time about rebuilding engines, family friend that certainly did have all the knowledge and basically helped me through the entire thing, which I'll be forever grateful for. That's what started the family friend took me to car shows prior to that, and really got me started with cars. And I don't know if, had I not attended those first car shows with him, who knows if I developed an interest in this, years later. So I'll be forever grateful for that. But at any rate, back to the car story. We rebuilt the engine, nice little 350 flat top pistons, your competition cam, your decent head, all the stuff, right, to make it a hot little 350 for back in the day to run around on the street. We put headers on it, which it did not have when we took the motor out. It still had the original cast iron exhaust, and so I didn't have anything to go back on it in order to start driving it, or even to drive it from where it was at when we put the engine in at the family friend's house. So he had some pieces out back from his shop that was left over from a project that had some cherry bombs, which is basically a muffler, a round muffler, rocket-shaped looking thing. Got a picture of Woody Woodpecker on it, the thrust. It was the manufacturer, and they're glass packed, and so they can be very loud. They can be very obnoxious. I don't think these were ever obnoxious for whatever reason. Most of the time, for whatever reason, the obnoxious sounding ones are on vehicles that they shouldn't be on in the first place. And what I mean by that is there's nothing to the motor. Somebody just threw a couple of glass packs on the thing and calls it a hot rod. But again, that's another rant. I'm gonna stop there. So he said, hey, I'll let you have these. We'll just bolt them on there, and you can run them for as long as you need to. So I did, and actually started driving the car once I turned 16 with those things on it. Well, fast forward, I'm driving the car for 6-8 months, whatever, and several high school buddies had old cars, and one night I had a friend from high school that he had a '69 Camaro, very nice car, and I just had to know. I had to know if that thing was all that much faster than mine. Now, with that being said, in hindsight, there's no way I would not have figured that out without testing the waters. He had me in probably motor. He definitely had me in gearing, and then to top it off, just to make sure he had what he needed, there was a nitrous bottle in the trunk. So all that being said, we decided we're going to go out to our local straightaway, and we raced, and I wound up getting my tail whooped, and it was embarrassing because there was people with both of us, and so they all bear witness to this thing, and so I've lost all sense of dignity, and we took the road on out, and if you keep going all the way out to the end of the road, if you will, you come to a red light, which then will take you into you can turn onto the main drag there right through the middle of town. And so I'm at the first one at the red light. The friend I raced was right behind me, and I don't know if I was just trying to reclaim an ounce of that dignity lost, but I decided when the light turned green and I was going to pull out onto the road that I was going to floor it and put on a little bit of show for everyone. And little did I know, there was a policeman sitting with off, no lights, nothing. I didn't see him, and he was just sitting there in a parking lot, and I blasted by him at about 6,500. So he lit up his lights and immediately pulled me over, and he said, well, I didn't clock you, clearly, and I think he probably mentioned he could give me a ticket for reckless driving, which absolutely, I checked all the boxes there. But he decided not to do that, and instead wrote me a ticket for loud mufflers, which was a first. I had never heard of that. I guess, that's a thing, but at any rate, I could tell, that was a lesser sentence, if you will, of what he could have done. So so I come home playing dumb, and like, oh, Dad, Mom, Dad, I got this ticket, them old mufflers that's on the car, they're loud, and apparently, they were too loud, and the policeman wrote me a ticket. And of course, there was no mention of the foolishness that was going on that really led to the ticket. And as far as I know, now I'm not naive enough to think that my parents didn't know half of what was going on that I, didn't think that they knew. But this one, I think honestly, they did not know ever. And this is the first time I've ever said it out loud. And the only other people that would have known would have been people that witnessed it that night. But at any rate, I come home and we talked about those mufflers and how they were too loud, and I got this ticket. And so in order to prep for the court date, my dad said, okay, well, we're just going to go and take it and get full exhaust put on it, which we did. And that exhaust cost $180. I remember it still to this day. I don't know if I had to pay it back in payments or why I still remember exactly how much it was. But in 1991, it was $180. And we went to the court, got up there, and luckily, I'm sure the policeman was there, and I think the judge even made a little joke about, a loud muffler ticket, doesn't see those very often. So I'm sure he knew what was up. But again, I'm not sure that my dad ever figured it out. But at any rate, I think we probably got it dismissed as intended. And I managed to squirm my way out of that with the loud muffler ticket. So never ever told that story, but again, I thought that was funny. So point of the whole story, other than just telling something I thought you might enjoy, is that $180, 81, 91. How much would it be now? I don't know. 3 times that. I'm guessing. So are you going to save any money doing this? Probably, but I wouldn't look at it as that necessarily. I would look at it more of, hey, if I did this through sourcing the parts myself, I'd have exactly what hopefully you wanted, and it would be done the way you wanted it, and you have the satisfaction of doing it yourself and do it in the comfort of your own shop at your own pace, so you could piece the parts together and not have to pay for the whole thing lump sum. There's obviously you can come up with several reasons to do this one way versus the other, and then on the flip side, if you don't want to mess with it, take it to the exhaust shop, get your work done. So that's it. And again, look for these front end videos coming out soon, and hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe. I could really benefit from the interaction. Thanks a bunch.